in here with my August wrap-up. I read 10 books in the month of August. 3 of them were during Booktubeathon, and I already have a video for those, so I will show them in this video, but I'm not going to explain anything about them because that's already explained in that other video. I will link that down below if you're interested in checking it out. Now for the Booktubeathon books, I read Every You, Every Me by David Levithan, The Girl in the Park by Mariah Fredericks, and More Scary Stories Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz. And this is part of a treasury. It's got 3 books in here, and I still haven't read the 3rd book in this. Now the 2 books that I started during Booktubeathon, and I think I touched on them in my Booktubeathon wrap-up, but I hadn't finished them during Booktubeathon. Choker by Elizabeth Woods, I gave 4 out of 5 stars, and this one takes place during high school. It was very interesting, actually. It's a little hard to explain without giving anything away, but there is this girl named Kara who has an incident at school, and everybody starts calling her Choker and making fun of her, and then her childhood friend comes, which they had moved away from each other, but her childhood friend steps in and just everything starts getting better. Then there's all kinds of crazy stuff that happens. A girl goes missing. There's one thing that I really want to say about this. It is a little bit of a spoiler, but there is somebody who has a personality disorder. But I'm not saying who because that would completely spoil it. Just a tiny, tiny spoiler. The next book I read was Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, and this was going to be my read another person's favorite book. And Magical Molly over at Magical Molly. This is her favorite book, and I can see why. It's really fun and really exciting. Although for a children's book, I don't know if it's just this version, because I know she said that Peter calls an acorn a kiss, but in this it's a button. Tinkerbell's only dialogue pretty much is calling Peter a silly ass. And for me, having somebody calling somebody a silly ass in a children's book is, I guess, a little unorthodox, and most parents wouldn't want to read a children's book where one of the characters calls somebody a silly ass, especially since it happens like 5 times in the book. But I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason why I gave it 4 instead of 5 is because I don't know if it's the time period that this was written in, or just the fact that it's written in London and has a lot of UK dialogue that I don't really understand. There were parts that were really confusing for me in this. Even though I did enjoy the book, there were parts that were confusing, so I had to knock it down to 4 instead of 5. The next book I read was The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, and I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. It is essentially a book about a tree who loves a boy so much that it's willing to give everything for him. The next book I read is Where the Sidewalk Ends, also by Shel Silverstein, and this is a collection of poems and drawings. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. If I was younger, I'd probably give it a 4, but a lot of the poems in it were a little too juvenile. There were some that I really liked. Hug of War here, my favorite. The next book is The Missing Piece, also by Shel Silverstein, and I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars as well. And this one is essentially about trying to find that missing piece, and essentially sometimes finding out that the missing piece isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be. And this is a book essentially about relationships, as is the next one that I'm getting ready to show you. And that is The Missing Piece Meets the Big O, also by Shel Silverstein. And I also gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. And this is about finding out that you may not actually be a missing piece. And the last book I read during August, it wasn't actually the last book I finished, but it's the last book I wanted to talk about in the wrap-up, and that is Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. I absolutely loved this book. It's sweet and it's funny and it has D&D in it. I mean, come on. D&D in a book. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars, and it's about a young gentleman who works in IT or internet security at a newspaper. So he reads everybody's emails and sees all their internet usage, but he only reads the flagged stuff. So if the server flags something, then he'll read it. He doesn't go in and snoop into other people's emails. But these two girls keep getting their messages flagged because they keep sending a lot of messages back and forth to each other. And some of it is because of the wording, some of it is because of possible personal use, which that's exactly what they're using it for. He likes reading their messages, even though he knows that he shouldn't, and he likes their personalities and he likes who they are. But he finds out that he is falling in love with one of the girls, even though he's never met her and he doesn't know anything about either of them outside of these emails. He falls in love with one of them, and then he's stuck with the issue of how does he tell her? Like, he's reading her private emails, and that's kind of weird, and he really wants to talk to her, he really wants to meet her, but I mean, how do you bring that up to somebody? Even though it's his job, and it's his job to go through the emails, but to him it's weird. So it's really fun. It has a lot of like newspaper stuff in it. It has, like I said, D&D. It has a lot of old movie references in it. It's based at the end of 1999 and going into 2000, and I love that. I absolutely love that. I don't think I have read a book that actually specifically says that it's based in that time period, which is when I was in high school, and that is awesome. So that's all the books that I actually read and finished during August. I have 3 books that I started that I didn't finish, and I'll show you those. Those are going to be part of what I read during September for my September TBR, which I actually didn't show one of these in my September TBR video now that I think about it. Oh well. So after reading Peter Pan, I loved the movie Hook, and I had the book. So I picked up Hook, which is based off of the screenplay and written by Terry Brooks. So this book is actually based off of the movie, and this is supposed to take place after Peter Pan ends. And I love the movie, and since I actually read Peter Pan, I can see how some of the stuff can happen, but some things I'm a little confused about, so I'm wondering if they'll explain more of it in the book than what they did in the movie. I'm on page 30 in this, so I've read the first 29 pages. I'm not very far into it. The next book I started and didn't finish is The Light in the Attic. Ooh. Wow, that was bad. The next book that I started and didn't finish is The Light in the Attic by Shel Silverstein, and I got about halfway through this one as well. Actually, I read through page 103, so there's only 169 pages in it, so I'm a little over halfway through this one. Actually, I've read it a while so far this month, since it's actually the 2nd right now. I should definitely have this done by the end of September. And the last book that I started and didn't finish, I really wanted to finish this, but I guess it's going to be finished in September because I'm over halfway through. I'm really excited to finish this, but I didn't want to push myself to finish it because it's a really good book and I didn't want to just rush through it. That is Progeny of Gauze, Virtue and Destiny by Jeffrey Storm. And this is awesome. It is sci-fi, fantasy, So far I have seen bits of like Ferngully in it, and he says even on the back of the book that it was based on Star Wars and The Legend of Zelda and Kingdom Hearts, which I've seen Star Wars. I never got to play Zelda because my dad had his own save games and he was afraid that we were going to erase them when we were little, so we were not allowed to play Zelda. And Kingdom Hearts, I have one of them, but I think it's the second one, and I really want to play the first one before I play the second one. I don't have it, so I don't really know anything about Kingdom Hearts or Zelda really very much, but I know about Star Wars. This is really good so far, and even though I don't know the references that are actually talked about on the back, like I said, there are little references that I can see from other things, and it is so good so far. And it's not like stealing things from it. It's just like there's this little bit that kind of reminds you of this thing from your childhood, which is awesome. So that is my wrap up for August. That's all the books that I read. Oh my god. Ooh, I almost dropped. And that's all I have for this video. I'll see you next time. Bye.